We're at the mouth of the West Branch Little Conestoga Creek near Millersville. It joins Little Conestoga just downstream. There was a 20-foot dam right behind us, downstream direction, and it formed a 20-foot deep pond back in the early 1700s. That pond was for water power for a mill just downstream. It was a grist mill to grind wheat to make flour. That pond then extended up the valley, and everything we see where it's grassy here on the bench behind me was a lake. It was the lake of that reservoir. You could have canoed on it. You could have been swimming in it, fishing in it, ice skating on it in the wintertime. It extends up the valley about a mile, and as we go upstream here, that pond would have gotten shallower to eventually be only maybe 6 to 8 feet deep. As a consequence, as the pond filled in with sediment, what we see today is 6 to 8 feet of sediment about a mile upstream, legacy sediment. Coming down the valley towards us, that sediment depth thickens until it's 20 feet right here where the dam was. The dam failed in the early 20th century. We've talked with the previous owners of this property, and they and their relatives told us about that dam failure during a hurricane. And since that time, the stream has been cutting down, so it's created this high vertical bank, and the sediment in that bank is largely silt and clay. We've done coring here. Bob Walter and I have brought out a drilling rig and cored deeply into this over in that bench, cored 20 feet down. Under the mill pond mud is the buried pre-colonial wetland landscape that formerly existed here.
It's creating a problem in the Chesapeake Bay. In fact, the high suspended sediment loads are one of the major pollutants into the bay, along with nutrients like phosphorus and nitrogen. Suspended sediment causes degradation in the infiltration of light, and subaquatic vegetation in the bay, which is photosynthetic and requires light, starts to diminish. And so it starts this ecosystem spiral, along with the nutrients that are attached to the sediment can enhance the nutrient concentration of the bay, causing this eutrophication problem, which causes algal blooms, and when the algal blooms die, they consume oxygen and create havoc with respect to oxygen depletion in the bottom waters of the bay. So we've got kind of an ecological trifecta going on with these banks. They're eroding, they're releasing suspended sediment to the streams, which gets carried downstream to the Chesapeake Bay, and they also carry along with it high concentrations of phosphorus and nitrogen.
The R.K. Mellon Foundation approached F&M because they were aware of the work that we were doing and invited us to submit a pre-proposal for a grant. And so we submitted that pre-proposal, and within a few months had submitted a full proposal. So it's a combination of applied science, applied research, education, and outreach. The applied science aspect of it includes mapping the most severe legacy sediment hotspots in the region, and then doing systematic outreach to landowners along those areas, inviting them to field meetings to share information, and then also learning from them about how we might best approach solving the problem.
By going in and removing the legacy sediment and restoring the ecological function of that buried wetland ecosystem, that we develop benefits such as immediate reduction in the sediment load, as well as a reduction in the nutrient load as well. And we've been monitoring this. We did a test case at a site called Big Spring Run. The reduction in the sediment load is up to about 600 tons per year of sediment load reduction from that removal of that 22,000 tons of legacy sediment. And the restoration length is only on the order of about, say 3,000 linear feet of the valley bottom. So that's a tremendous amount of sediment for a small restoration. And so the idea is we want to try to build this out and see what would be the cumulative effect of doing these kinds of restorations elsewhere in the county and in the region.